everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for you to be here and I'm so excited for today's topic. I really want to get more into self-concept and self-identity and how I have been able to pivot from not feeling good enough to feeling more than worthy. And I think last week's episode, if you have not listened to it yet, I will link it below. But if you have listened to it, it really inspired me to talk more about how I've been able to make that shift and how I'm continuously making those shifts in my life. And if you're wondering what experience I have, I was a mental health coach for 4 to 5 years and a program director for a mental health company as well. I have a bachelor in psychology, so I love all things to do with the brain. And I've just learned a lot from life. I have had some really challenging life experiences, which not to say anyone hasn't, but I realized that because I was suffering from a negative and just low self-esteem and low self-concept and how I identified myself and my worth and my value, that the world was giving me that right back. I was accepting the bare minimum in some cases, in some ways in my life, and I was also not putting myself first. And so my goal within my channel is to uplift and inspire and create your own aha moments. Now, before we get started, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you're on my podcast, hit that 5-star, that download, whatever it be. I love it all. Any and all between is very much appreciated. But now let's get into this episode. So I didn't really take any notes on this like I normally do because I've been in a state of gratitude and reflection, which I always am, but in particular when it comes to how I felt when it came to what I deserved out of life. I really think the key to manifesting the life of your dreams is always focusing on you, always putting yourself first. And I don't know if it came from Disney movies, like Cinderella and Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, where there was always a Prince Charming saving someone, or even the TV shows I was watching when I was growing up. But I always felt like I couldn't do the life that I had without a man, that I always needed a man in order to live the life of my dreams, that I couldn't do it for me on my own. And although that lifestyle might work for some people, and I can't say that, my generalized opinion is the way that other people choose to live their life, I think that it's important for everyone to identify what they want out of life and to live that way. I have some friends who don't have full-time jobs and they have income that comes in from their spouses, from their boyfriends, whoever. And then I have some friends who are super hyper independent and they only rely on themselves and they've never had a partner that has supported them in that way. I think I'm somewhere in between, and I think that when I was in my past relationships and the way that I identified what I could and could not do really affected the way that I saw myself. It really affected the way I viewed how much money I could make, what I could do out of life. And so by centering more on myself and focusing on myself, it really allowed for me to realize, wait, I actually don't need a man to do this. And I've talked about decentering men previously in the context of ridding yourself of the anxious attachment feeling and just ridding yourself of only focusing on a man. But I just want to talk about the effects that you have that happen when you decide to focus on yourself. I had this major aha moment in the car earlier today that, wow, from the time that I was out of college to 2021, I was depending on a man for some sort of income, whether that be to pay my rent, pay a bill, buy me something. I always was relying on someone else to do it for me. And in doing that, I was doing myself such a disservice that I didn't realize. And I was programming, or had my brain programmed to believe these limited thoughts and beliefs that weren't actually true. And I mentioned this in my other episode as well. I think that sometimes when you're focusing so much on other people, which I've had careers where, or jobs, I will say, where I focused so much on other people. I was a mental health counselor for 4 years, a program director working for a company that was chaotic, and was also having men in my life who I felt like I needed to do stuff for all the time. And so by focusing on them, focusing on a man's career, how much a man can make, helping that man to make all this money, what was I doing for myself? I wasn't putting myself in the position that I needed to always maintain. I think it really came to a head in 2018, I was in a relationship that was so emotionally abusive when it came to money and finances. Like, yes, was I driving a very nice car? Absolutely. Did I have to worry about any bills? No. Did I have a debit card or credit card in my name? Yes. But that came with its consequences. If he was angry at me, he would take something back. If he didn't like the way that I asked the question, he would disappear and expect for me to be out in 2 weeks, and would obviously come back and apologize. But that cycle of abuse really continued to perpetuate this idea and this limited belief that I've got to be this good girl. I've got to always show up for a man in the way that he expects for me to. And so by literally being thrown out of that relationship, when I say thrown out of that relationship, like, I walked out of that relationship, and this is not easy to say out loud. I walked out of that relationship with probably $500 to $1,000 to my name. I couldn't even afford my new apartment lease that we had gotten. It was just really chaotic. And of course, I'm so grateful for my mom because she really stepped in and helped me. And hopefully my dad doesn't watch this because we still have not had that conversation. I'm a daddy's girl at the end of the day. And I've come from a family where my dad always made sure that I had, my mom always made sure that I had. And so for me to be in a situation where I put myself in this like crazy position I felt very ashamed by it. And I felt it just continued to create the cycle of unworthiness. And so in my relationship after that, I was like, I've got to create a career for myself. I started real estate. And I made, I wasn't making the money I wanted to make, but I was making enough money to handle my own. I also was doing medical billing, which I restarted up again after I stopped doing it because of that previous relationship. So I had my own money. But at the end of the day, I still wasn't breaking outside of my comfort zone. I still was putting a low glass ceiling on myself. And I feel like when you have this idea that, oh, a man that's always gonna save me, you keep that glass ceiling so low, you can't see anything above it. So it was hard for me to make a certain amount of money above what I was making because I was continuing to tell myself like, okay, but he'll do it, he'll do this. And then of course that relationship hit ahead. But I will say I was very grateful that I at least had a savings account, that I was able to afford my apartment on my own. And yes, I had some trials and tribulations throughout that first year by myself and just trying to change my limited beliefs around money. But because I now feel like I'm on the other side of that, I'm able to look back and reflect and see where I got that sudden feeling that I needed a man to do stuff for me, and it feels good to no longer be in that mindset. When you are relying solely on a man for your income, you are putting yourself in a survival state of mind. And that's not going to be easy for everyone to hear, but it's so true. Even if you are a stay-at-home mom, a housewife, a house girlfriend, and that man is giving you money, it's so important to do something with it, to create income for yourself in some way. Put that money towards a down payment on a new house. Put that money towards your stocks and your investments, your IRA, your bonds, something. Make sure that you are protecting you. And that is a big lesson that I had to learn from my past 2 relationships. And it's like, wow, I had to tell God, I'm not doing this again, because not only did you show it to me once, but twice. And I feel like now it's like a slap in the face to you, because not to you, but to my spirit team of like, you all are always making sure that I'm provided for. And yet here I am again, going back to my old ways and relying on a man for income. But sometimes, and me and my friend were talking about this last week, but sometimes it takes that really hard lesson for you to never do it again. And that is a hard pill to swallow, because I think it's easy for people to say, learn from my lessons. And sometimes we can learn from other people's lessons. But if we don't have the self-concept, the self-worth to know that we deserve better, to know that we don't have to go through that in order to learn the lesson, you have to go through it yourself. And I had to go through some really challenging things all by myself that were lessons that I could not learn from other people because I didn't feel worthy of that. I didn't feel worthy of being able to learn the lesson the soft way and not the hard way. And a lot of that has to do with your ego, and your ego telling you like, oh, I'm the exception. I always thought, and my friend had this honest conversation with me earlier this year. She's like, you always think that this man or you are the exception to the rule. And yes, there are exceptions to rules. There absolutely are. Not all men are cheaters. I don't believe that. Not all men are broke or all these other things that they perpetuate on the internet. But we need to look and observe and look at patterns and not go back. Like, you don't have to be this savior of these men. You don't have to have this hero complex. Like, what is this? And I had to really take a hard look at myself and go, why do I feel that way? Why do I feel like I have to be the exception to the rule for a man? That I have to be the one to build him up, that I have to be the one to do all this work on this man. There aren't good men out here that exist that have done the inner work on themselves. Like, I was literally putting these limited beliefs in my mind that I couldn't make a certain amount of money by myself, that I had to struggle with men and perform and help them and build them up and leave depleted. But doing it for you is more than just about the money. It's about proving to yourself that you are as worthy as you think that you are. And that is a huge thing that I realized this year. That no, God does not want for me to be by myself. Just because I am independent and I have goals and dreams and ambitions doesn't mean that there's not a man out there that won't accept that or love that about me. I don't have to lower myself and dim my light for any man. I can make as much money as I want in this world and still have a man provide for me. Because honestly, when you have such a high self-worth, you're not wasting your time on bozos. You're not. You're not just going on willy-nilly dates. You're not just doing willy-nilly things. You are being intentional because you know that your time is valuable. You know that you have a lot to offer and that you have things in this life that you are trying to accomplish. That you have friends, family, travels, pets, shopping, Pilates, whatever. You have a life and you don't need that man to fill you up. And the more a man realizes that you don't need him to fill you up, it actually creates the opposite effect that you are so afraid of. And I felt like if I'm this boss babe girl, that I'm not gonna have a man, that men aren't gonna like that. And that's just not true. In fact, men love when a woman focuses on herself. And that doesn't mean that you have to be out here making millions of dollars. That's not what it means at all. You could be working, volunteering at a shelter, working a concierge job, whatever it is that makes you happy. As long as you are focusing on you and you have enough money in your wallet, and I mean digital wallet, because obviously we don't carry cash around like that anymore, but you have enough money in your bank account to manage you, that no matter what, even if that man dies tomorrow, you can handle you. Is so important. And I didn't take my mom seriously because she always said, make sure you have your own. And that's something my grandma instilled in her. Make sure you always have your own. Because growing up, my grandma was a stay-at-home mom and she so wanted to have a job. And so she finally got a job. I can't remember what job it was. I have to ask my mom again. But she got a job and she never looked back. And it wasn't because my grandpa was holding anything over her head. In fact, the opposite. He wanted her to be happy. He wanted her to do what she wanted to do. And I think that is so important too, because in that previous relationship, not my last relationship, but the really catastrophic one, I mean, to be honest, both were catastrophic, but the one in which there was money abuse involved, he didn't want me to do anything. He didn't want me to work. He didn't want me to do anything that didn't involve him. And that was such a huge red flag that I didn't peep or recognize when we got together. And of course, dig my feet in, and I continued. And that is also a lesson to learn. Walk away from things that aren't serving you. I have an episode about that too. I think it's only on my podcast, but walk away from things that don't serve you, because the longer you stay, the harder it's going to be to leave. And the longer you stay and you don't listen to your intuition about what you should be doing, and really that's in anything. That's not just in relationships, that's in friendships, that's in your career and everything. Because I've also had to walk away from jobs that weren't serving me, that I already knew weren't serving me, but it took something dramatic. And it doesn't have to be something dramatic for you to feel worthy enough to not need that anymore, to feel worthy of something better. And I know, honestly, because I think a lot of women can resonate with this, when you don't have your own, you don't feel good about yourself. You don't feel that you are at ease. When I don't have money, I don't feel at ease. When I have to rely on other people for my money, I don't feel at ease. Relying on other people for your income only puts you into survival mode. And when I say that I have survival mode deep within my DNA, my parents, like not my dad is my dad, but my birth father, I have to distinguish the two. I don't say stepdad because he is not my stepdad, he is my dad. My parents met when I was like 4 or 5 months, but the birth father, him and my mom got divorced when I was in utero. So from the beginning, my mom was in survival mode with 2 kids under 2 trying to figure it out. And I even was telling her like, hey, did you know on my birthday that there was a solar eclipse and that there was a full moon, and you know, I'm into astrology stuff. And she's like, girl, I had no idea because I was so stressed out. I had you and my first thought was, what am I gonna do? And I realized from there, like, wow, like I do have survival mode in my DNA. And so I can no longer blame anyone for that. My mom did the best that she could with what she had. She met my dad. They did the best that they could with what they had. And they still continue to do for me, which I am so grateful for. But it is my job to look within and to change. I have a video on healing your anxious attachment style, because that also helps with feeling like you're in survival mode. I feel like that is a start. And another start is by focusing on you. And as hard as that can be, it is so necessary to take a break. And for me right now, I am single. I don't have any prospects. I have no roster. And I can say genuinely that I am just fine with that. I am celibate, which is also, I would highly recommend. And I haven't felt this good in so long. And so even though I still have trials, right? I still have things that appear in my 3D world. Like if I'm honest, this week has been a doozy, honestly. Like from left and right, I can just only laugh about it. But I approach problems differently. I approach challenges differently. I no longer tell myself in my head, okay, but if I had a man, I would be able to do that. If I just need a man to do that. I stopped doing that. And I had to even tell my parents, like, please, I only want to talk about positivity. I only want to talk about how great I can be, because when I tell myself, oh, I need a 9-to-5 job in order to do that, or I need a 2-income household in order to do this, all it does is enhance and continue to tell the outer world and the material world that I'm right. Because all I'm gonna see is things that are proving that to be true. But if I can tell myself, I got this all on my own, I can do this with the help of my spirit team, they help me. They help me, right? I am good. And I'm gonna say, even when it came to vacations, I was like, oh, I can't do that by myself. It was like, all I knew was paying my bills or having someone pay my bills and buying stuff. Like, oh, I could buy this, I could go shopping. But when it came to travel, I would be so scared. Y'all, I only took 1 trip with a man this year. And I think we've talked about that. Took 1 trip with a man, but did I need him to take me? Was I desperate to go? Absolutely not. Did I get invited on another trip with that said man and I canceled? Absolutely. Because I am not desperate to go anywhere. If I realize we are not aligned, I'm leaving it. Point blank, period. And I had to tell a man that earlier this week, or on, I think this was on Friday. So I got bored again and I got on Hinge. I still am going to be celibate because that's just how I want to operate. But if I swipe and there's someone that's interesting, yeah, I'll go on a date. So this one guy, we match, and of course, profile, 6'3", very handsome guy, but he asked me if I wanted to go to pickleball. That is not an ideal first date, but I was like, you know what? I'm treating this very casually. I do want to learn how to play pickleball because I used to play tennis. Let's do it. So I'm like, okay, like that sounds fun. And he's like, okay, what's your number? We can go sometime this week. that was already a red flag for me. Or I will say it was a yellow flag, because I'm like, he didn't even ask me like when I was free. He just assumed that I would be free sometime this week. So that was a yellow flag. Then he texts me and he's like, oh, do you have some time to chat? I do say, hey, I will call you after my next appointment. And then y'all, I had other things going on. I completely forgot. I was honest with him later on that night and I said, hey, I actually have had such a busy day and now I'm so drained. I would not be any fun to talk to. But here's what my schedule is like the next 2 days. I was working all weekend, because the thing about real estate, and really with anything entrepreneurial wise, it's got to get done, it's got to get done. Even this video, I am so tired. I'm in luteal. My head has been hurting all day. I had a nightmare last night. I've been running errands and working. I didn't really want to do this, but I knew discipline-wise that I needed to. So anyway, I had to work, point blank, period. And I'm always going to need a partner that understands that. So I'm out on my appointments. He's like, hey, how's your day going? You still out working? Yes, I am. I am indeed. I accidentally sent him a message that I meant to send to a listing agent. I was like, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to send that to you. We went on the conversation like, okay, I'm not even a really big texter or caller before an actual date. I'll give you 5 minutes on the phone. We can talk a few times via text message, but it's too much admin and I would prefer for us to meet in person. That's just how I am. Now, everyone has to operate that way. That is where I honestly went wrong with this, was because I wasn't following my strict boundaries. But anyway, he then says, do you think you have good work-life balance? Red flag, absolute red flag. First of all, sir, we've never been on a date. I've been working 3 days in a row, traveling from Timbuktu down all around the world. You don't think that there are better things you could have asked me? Do you need anything? Oh, if you're free tonight, I would love to help you decompress. Like, are you free to go to dinner? Do you, like, how does it feel? Like, does it stress you out? Like, how do you de-stress? Anything. But instead, he just chooses to say, do you have good work-life balance? And puts an emoji after it, like that was gonna soften the blow. I read right through that and I was like, yeah, I do. But when I have to work, I have to work. And I just told him plain, I said, you know what? I just don't think that this is gonna work. I don't think that we're a match, but I do hope that you find what you're looking for. And I do mean that. I genuinely do. I don't wish that man any harm. He didn't do anything to me, but he's gonna be the right person for the right girl, but I'm just not it. Because if you're already starting from knowing each other a day, not even meeting in person, and you're asking me if I have good work-life balance, on top of not asking me about my schedule and just assuming that I was available, all that's showing me is that you expect things to work on your time, that you expect for me to be available when you want me to be available, that you want to make sure that I'm making you a priority. And I need a man to understand that I'm building. If I meet you in this phase of my life, I am building. And I expect for you to be building too, so that we can create a life that we both love, together and separate. And that's it. But I say that to say, because I'm in the state of mind of focusing on me, improving my self-worth and knowing my self-worth, I can easily say, oop, nope, that's not gonna work for me, and walk away without feeling like, oh, maybe I should give him a chance, feeling that angst of like, well, what if he's the one? If he was the one, he would have presented himself differently. And honestly, if he was the one, that me saying that wouldn't have like done anything. He would have been like, oh, like, well, how can I, like, there would have been something else that happened, right? So by focusing on you, you don't live in survival mode in general. You no longer think that like you have slim pickings. You don't focus on any of that because you're just so focused on you and getting to the next level, whether that is in your career, in your mindset, in your physical appearance, whatever it be. All three, the Holy Trinity, honestly, is where I've been at. And it's honestly not easy to change and switch and shift that mindset from relying on a man and being dependent on a man in some form, or feeling like you have to have a man in order to live your dream life, to wait, I can create that on my own. Because it does internally, naturally, as a woman who wants to be married and have kids, it does create that like, oh, but what if I am by myself, all by myself forever? And that's just not the truth. And I even talked through that with my mom. Like, I used to feel like, because I do have godmoms who have never been married, or who have been married and got divorced, and, you know, when you see things like that in your life, you just sometimes are like, you do things to avoid that, right? But I realized, and my mom had to remind me, like, those were their choices. They had options. They had options and they didn't want them. That was the life that they chose. That was what made them happiest. So if that's not what makes me happiest, if I ultimately want a partner, I want kids, I want this dream life, who's to say that I can't do it? Who's to say that I can't have both? There are so many women out here that I aspire to be, that inspire me so much. And they have everything. They have it all. Beyonce has 4 kids, or 3 kids. Emma Grant has 4. Rihanna is pregnant with her 3rd. Cardi B has 3 or 4. And all these women are still boss ladies doing their thing. So why can't I? And also cutting out that limiting belief. Because I used to even tell myself with real estate, wow, I do need another source of income to make this work. I do need a partner to help me with the bills. And when I really looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, wait, but why can't I do this on my own? Who was telling me that I couldn't? Just like the Hannah Montana song, Who Said? Honestly, I sing that song sometimes because it's just so true. Who said, But it's so true, because who said? I said. And because I said, that is what my world was showing me. But if I change that up and I switch that up and go, actually, I can't do this all by myself. And when the right man comes along, that is just a bonus. That is just additional, because I don't need him for anything. He adds quality to my life. He doesn't make my life. He doesn't make my world go round. He is a satellite that orbits my world, not me orbiting his, not me relying on him for everything, to the point where I'm scared going to the grocery store because this man might have cut off my car because he's angry at me. That's not the way to go. Or a man deciding to give you money this month and then doesn't like you and next month, or you do something that he doesn't like, that he deems unworthy, and he takes the money away from you. Actually, I'm not gonna give you money this month. Who wants to live that way? Who truly wants to live that way? It's so important to do for yourself. And the more you do for yourself, the more you're gonna see your outer world expand. And it might take a while. And I say that with everything, it might take a while. It could happen immediately if you already have worked on your self-concept some, but if you are just starting out, it's gonna take some time, and you have to be patient with yourself. You have to start slowly. Think about what it is that you really want out of life. What is it that you want to do? What gives you purpose? Everyone feels purpose somehow. What gives you purpose? My purpose has always been in helping people and building community. And I do that through real estate, and I do that through this platform. My purpose has always been to show people that change is possible and that change is good, and to embrace change, because when we embrace change, beautiful things happen. That I know is my purpose. So it is important to hone in on what your purpose is, and then be brave enough to expand, to allow yourself to have that expansion. And if your man is not supportive of that, do I need to say more? I think you already know the answer to that. But the more that you expand, the more your 3D world is going to show you. It's going to show you evidence and proof of how good it is that you decided to do that. Your 3D world is going to show you just how amazing you are. And I continue to trust in that. The more I get out of my comfort zone and I expand and I shut off my limited beliefs, I switch my beliefs. And instead of saying I need someone to do this for me, I got this on my own. Me and God, me and my spirit team, we gonna figure it out. My passed away loved ones didn't die just for me to forget that they're always here for me. They want me to want their support. They want me to rely on them. They want to continue to guide me through. And I'm so big on angel numbers. And even now, I've got some deals up in the air. I've got some things going on. We all do. But at the grocery store, I saw 222 sign. And then not only did I see it once, but I saw it twice. You gotta pay attention to the signs that God sends you, because he's gonna send you so many. And the more that you trust in that, 414 on the clock, the more that you trust in that, the more you continue to develop trust in yourself and in the universe to aid you and provide for you and to show you how to make the life of your dreams happen. And I am trusting in that, and we will see the end results of that. But I know it's going to be amazing. It has no choice to be. I get everything I want. And that's something that Kathleen Cameron says. I get everything I want. Everything I ask for, I get. I get everything that I ask for. So ask for good things, and good things will happen. Ask for good things, focus on good things, focus on who you want to be, and allow the universe to reflect that back. So lastly, I also wanted to end with an affirmation. I was going to make this episode about affirmations, but I have this one in particular that I've been using so much, minus the Kathleen Cameron, like I get everything that I ask for. And this is a Tony Robbins quote. I love Tony Robbins as well. He honestly was the start of me getting into like being a coach and switching my mind from like, oh, I don't have to just do mental health. But anyway, it says, God's wealth is circulating in my life. His wealth flows to me in avalanches of abundance. All my needs, goals, and desires are met instantaneously. For I am one with God, and God is everything. I leave this post-it on my front door. So when I'm having a moment, I read it and I'm like, okay. And I often repeat to myself, all my needs, goals, and desires are met instantaneously. For I am one with God, and God is everything. Because we are connected to Source. No matter what you think, God isn't here to punish us. He does not want us to live a hard life. If you believe that you need to live a hard life, that's what you'll get. But if you believe that ease is allowed, that you should be living a life of luxury and ease, then that is what you're going to get too. That doesn't mean that we're exempt from challenges. Challenges are going to happen, but we deal with them differently. We don't allow them to consume us. And the more that you have for yourself and you focus on yourself, again, the more self-worth you have. And the more self-worth you have, I truly believe the more you can see and trust and have faith that everything is working out for you, because it should. It has no choice but to. So anyway, that is the end of today's episode. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I, as usual, enjoy talking with you all. It truly is so heartwarming to get the comments that I receive and just the follows, the likes, the subscriptions. It just really truly warms my heart. So I'm very, very appreciative and grateful. I also have a TikTok channel, and that is at India Simone, which is my same name, Simone with 2 N's, where I talk about my aha moments on there as well, with some comedic relief in between. But anyway, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day and the rest of your week, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.